Mhm. Welcome to Training Group Live. On deck today, well, power couple, Michelle and Todd Woitzel. How are you guys?
Good.
Well, who are you guys and why are you on here? Todd, you're returning All-Star. We talked previously about a lot of things, match management, the state of Area 3, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so I think we're here today to do a little three-person debrief on the Cornhusker Classic, which just finished yesterday, and kind of go over the whole match, the various aspects of it, and see how we did, some learnings for next year, all of the above.
Yeah, well, I think it's good to talk about. I mean, as an admin side, I get a lot of questions like, how do you set stuff up? And people do, I get a lot of messages after we do these with people that manage their club, don't necessarily have direction or a mentor, and they're kind of just figuring it out as they go. So Todd and Michelle are kind of the brains behind, well, both the Cornhusker matches, the Hit Factor or USPSA, whichever it is, depending on the State of the Union, and then the Steel Challenge. So our
Yep.
major match at our club for the year. And then you guys run the Steel Challenge program monthly also throughout the year. So
Yep, we do the monthlies and Don Rush does the Thursdays.
yeah. So anyway, Michelle, you're new to the new to this nonsense. Who is
Yep.
Michelle? Michelle, what? You do photos, you do photography, you do
Well,
art.
I'm the better half of Todd.
This is true.
Um, I guess my background is I have an education in graphics and I with a side interest in photography. And when we moved to Omaha the first time, I was a photographer for what, 12, 13 years with my first love being sports photography. And then I got out of the photography and kind of happened into the whole shirt thing. But that's one of the reasons why I take the pictures for the Cornhusker Classic is I love sports photography. There's no faking that emotion. It's raw emotion. It's great when you can get those shots that those competitors just don't have access to normally. I mean, sometimes, yeah, they've got a buddy back behind them videotaping, but you can't see, like in some of those pictures, the muscles and the effort and the brass flying in the air.
The goofy looks
And
people make.
yeah, you know what's surprising? How many people shoot with their tongue sticking out?
Hmm.
I
Yes.
was like, last year there was a lot. I'm like, I cannot post this picture. So I generally, when I'm going through the editing, because I took over, well, close to 7,000 pictures this weekend.
Holy crap.
And so I have to edit that down. Obviously, there's when you can take 12 shots in a second, you don't, there's a lot of repeat, or obviously if there's somebody running towards me, there's going to be a little blur. And because I picked that stage specifically because there was running, there's going to be a lot of action in it. Everybody knows nobody looks good on the downbounds, right? Where you're like,
Hmm.
so I immediately delete those. If it's a picture that I personally wouldn't want people seeing of me, I just delete it. So when somebody says, "Hey, you didn't get a shot of me when I posted up here," there's a reason. There, you're making a face that was bad. You physically didn't look great because there was something wrong with your clothing, or
You could see down the muzzle of their gun. That would be a
or
bad
there
thing
was
if you
an
could see
infraction
rifling.
of some point, something where I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't get caught, delete. So
Yes.
but everybody's very, very receptive and very I had so many people coming up to me and just thanking me so much for all the pictures. Hey, I changed my profile picture once a year and it's at this match because
Hmm.
of the pictures. So it's
Yeah.
rewarding. It's a lot of work, but for that part, it's rewarding.
Yeah. Well, to more details to explain better. So at the Cornhusker match every year, Michelle sets up a spot, and I'll let you get into the detail, but you set up and you take professional grade photographs of the shooters, and then you upload them to your website. So more or less everyone that shot the match can log into your website and pull down a professional, like high res picture of themselves shooting. And I'm going to date this. This is Monday. The match was over yesterday. Social media is full of them. I mean, everyone's either, like, thanks for taking all these, or an action shot where it's like, 4 or 5 pictures back to back, kind of showing them through the motions of moving or reloading or mounting the gun and getting ready to shoot, whatever it is. And anyway, people really like those.
Yeah.
So, what's the thought process that goes into this? Like, how do you pick the stage and the spot to do that?
Well, once the stages are set up, I walk each stage. And obviously the ones that get thrown out right away are the ones where there's walls and I'm not going to be able to see through them.
Mhm.
I generally look for a stage where I know that they've got a post up at maybe 3 different locations. I want a good starting position. If they can run towards me, that's great. Because it's action shooting, right?
Mhm.
You want to see yourself in action. So it came down to 2 bays. I think it was bay 2 or 3, no, bay 3, Todd, that you're talking about. And then the bay that I ended up on was bay 5. And I chose bay 5 because I have this big zoom lens, and that's why I can get so close without impeding on anybody's line of sight or getting in their way. And that's the one I picked because I've got that big lens and I can't get too close because then I'm just getting a picture of their eye or something. So that's why I picked the stages that I usually do. And the last couple of years has been bay 5 just because it's big, wide bay on our range.
Come on, you also get some shade right where you were.
Well, I bring my own shade.
That's true.
This is true. You also cleverly have some kind of a Cornhusker like signage or banner or something next to where you're going to be taking the shot. So that gets in the photo also, which is a quite nice
Why
touch.
not do some self-advertising? We've learned from the past that a lot of these pictures do get posted, and why not sneak a little advertising in there to help our club fill up the match? And it works.
It does. I agree. Let's see. What else should I ask you about photo stuff? What else am I not thinking about? I know there's more that goes into this than just what I see.
You know, I think the thing from, and I'll try to be impartial here, but a lot has been involved. But I think Michelle over the last 3 years has really come up with a theme for all our matches. We
Oh,
have a
true.
theme, we have a design, and I think it's cohesive every year. And I think it kind of brands the matches, which gives some familiarity every year with a twist. That's all. That's all been her.
That's
Well, I
true.
think with any event, and you guys have heard this before, I went to this match and it just felt like a local. Well,
Mhm.
if it's we want it to be a premier match, you got to make it look and feel like a premier match. And a lot of that is what Todd says, Michelle's going to come in and make it look pretty. No, I want the competitors to drive down into those lower bays and go, hey, this is cool, and get excited because it doesn't look like a local match. It looks like we put a lot of thought and a lot of preparation into this. And by branding it and becoming more familiar, it helps with our range can use all our banners and the staff shirts. It helps bring down our costs on that part. And when people start talking about the Cornhusker and then you see Cornhusker come up on practice score, it might not be Hit Factor, but it might be one of the other matches. It'll catch somebody's eye.
True.
So branding's kind of important. And I feel like our match, our range, and Todd and I were talking about this tonight, along with a lot of other ranges, are missing out on advertising. There's so many. I mean, look at all our sheds. That's premier advertising space that we could have banners and charge rent fee on those all year long. But most ranges don't have somebody in charge of marketing. So
True. Well, and even like the Steel Challenge match you guys did last year, where it's like, I'm not a huge, I'm not largely into Steel Challenge, but it was fun to work the match to help out, and even like stuff I didn't think about, where you paint the posts in between shooters where they shoot the steel and it's splattered full of from bullets hitting the steel, and like the pieces of the wood chip away. So you're like, oh, go down with the black spray paint and spray paint the wood just so it looks very nice. Stuff that kind of I wouldn't really necessarily have picked up on before. But then once you see all the posts getting painted and the contrast of the white steel plates, like, oh, this looks
I
very
think all
nice.
those little things that you can do above and beyond, like, the flags, the banners, there's a lot of stuff that people are doing, right? And we're not the only ones that do it. Freshly mowed lawns and Tom's out there grading, making sure the roads are graded and the parking lot's nice and everything's weed eated, right? Well, I think it's not even just for the out of towners that are coming into match. I think what you hope have is that your local shooters come down and a couple times a year it kind of ups their pride for their range. You know, we are putting on a match. We are proud of our range. We're proud of what we do. And I think over time that continue to build. So that's part of what you're trying to do as well.
I like that. I noticed even the way that you guys had the prize table done, it looked very well. I mean, I'm not gonna talk crazy, but normally it'll be just some picnic table or a plastic table with kind of stuff scattered out, and you kind of lump it into clumps, I suppose, and someone calls off a name and you go sort through the tables or whatever. Would you talk, whichever one of you talk about how you did the prize table this year? Because it looked quite nice.
So first of all, any match director knows, or if you don't know, the number one requirement to being a match director is you've got to be organized. And that goes through everything. And it even trickles down to the prize table. And when you've got all those competitors in line waiting to get a prize, you can't be wasting time trying to find the prize that they just won. Also, most people are visual, and why not spread out the prizes and everybody can see and gets excited. Oh, I could win that dot, or I could win this case gauge, or I can win. There's lots of things to get them excited about. It's just another thing to amp up excitement for the match. And I think as far as the reason we laid it out and the reason we did it is just to be as efficient as possible with handing out the prizes.
Yeah, so just for everybody that's listening, is we do a random draw, right? So we get, Joel, you got the vast majority of our prizes from sponsors, so thank you. You get a lot of connections. So we had 81 prizes and 126 people. So 2/3 of the people that were there, 2 out of every 3 roughly got a prize. It might have been a dry fire target pack all the way up to $1,000 pair of glasses. Or the new Vortex XL dot, right? We had 2 of those. We had a really good prize set. So we do a random draw, right? So we have a box with 83 numbers that have a number on them, and the remaining amount that just say sorry. Yes, I have an accent.
I love that. I love the sorry.
Or sorry. And you just put your name in a box. We scratch your name off so that we knew what you draw, and if you get a number, we go grab it. The prize tables are rough. Right, you have, national level events do performance walks, right? The winner gets to go first, etc. You have other methods of doing it where you can go to squads. Each squad gets 4 prizes. You pick a colored rock out of a bag or whatever you want to do. I think just what we did, we tried to do is as people were coming off Bay 5, come draw. We had an attendant, right? There, and staff drew the same as everybody else, right? It's just a number. We didn't do a separate staff draw or anything like that. And my opinion, I know it's Michelle's, both of us, I think a lot of people is the winner versus the guy that got last. Your match fee provides you a chance to win the biggest prize on the table just as much as anybody does, right? So I think it's the fairest way to do it. You could start talking like some matches do cash payouts. I suppose you could do stuff like that, but from the prize table point of view, if you don't like what you got, sell it to a buddy, give it to a buddy, do whatever you
want. Well, I think what we're trying to say is, I don't care if you're a grandmaster and you're comp that match, or you're a C-class shooter, you're equally as important to us at the Cornhusker Classic, and we want everybody to have an even chance, and that's why we just do a random draw. Everybody's got a shot.
You said it better than I.
At the risk of sounding a little bit elitist, I was at dinner the night before the match with the boys, and I mean, I'll be real, like the group I went to dinner with, they're going to win about everything. And we were talking about it because one of the guys brought up, like, how you guys doing prizes instead of random draw again. And we had a little bit of conversation back and forth. I'm like, hey, like we're all amongst friends. What do you think? And there were a couple people like, I don't like it because I'm going to win and I want, I'm going to win and I want to get the best prize, which I understand. But most people are, well, there's a person with a flight to catch. So he stayed for awards, but after awards was done shortly after, he had to get going to the airport. A lot of people, I mean, my friends included, have 6 hours, 4 hours, 7 hours to get home. This way, if they want to leave, we'd love to have people tear down, but as soon as they're done firing their last shot, if they want to leave, they're able to and they got their prize. The other thing that's nice is if people shot on staff day, we're not expecting them to come back or to do like that proxy stuff. And then if you get the proxy, then like, bro, like back in the day of Area 3, I like, since I'm somewhat local, people would give me their proxy. Like, oh, would you walk the prize table? Now I've got some crap that I've got to hang on for months to get to them or mail it to them or whatever. This just alleviates all that stuff. And then,
I'm glad you brought that up. I think time savings is probably just as big as anything.
Mhm.
If you did a prize walk for 83 prizes, it would take 2 hours. To your point, the Saturday competitors aren't there. And we had about 8 to 10 of them, and there's certain people that can't shoot on Sunday. We have a bunch of, and you guys know who they are. They can't shoot on Sunday. It's their religious belief, so they don't get a prize. I mean,
Well, interestingly enough, where I was on Bay 5, I could hear all the conversations coming out of the where we were drawing.
sure.
And there was a group of 5 guys, and 2 out of the 3 guys pulled a sorry tag. And the guy goes, oh, I didn't win anything. I really, and the one guy goes, dude, if you came here for the prize table, then you're here for the wrong reason.
Mhm.
And I wanted to turn around and just start laughing because it's not about the prizes, right? It shouldn't be.
I agree.
It's a bonus. It's great. We love that we, get all these donations. But we're not in this sport for the prizes. We're in the sport because we all have issues.
Sure. Yeah.
We all want to compete, right?
Just weaponized autism for me. But when you figure like the match fee, the price of your ammo, your hotel if you traveled, airfare, whatever. Yeah, I mean, we had some very nice prizes, but I wouldn't want to spend, if you're traveling from out of town, $1,000 on a trip to go to a match in a hopes to win something that's $300. That would be, I mean, that'd be a losing proposition financially.
Most people already have the gear they want anyway, so these are
Right.
back, or frankly, they're an excuse to buy more money.
Sure.
But I tell you what, those glasses, I tried them on. I wouldn't have mind winning those.
I did not try them on because I did not want to like them. Ben Singer Pro Shop gave us a few pairs of those Pila. I think is the way you pronounce them.
Pila. I guess sounds Italian.
They were kind enough to donate a few pairs of those, and they looked very nice. But I didn't want to try them on or hold them because I was afraid I would like them.
Yeah, a little Leo Lane won a pair, so maybe if you wear it next time, he'll have a better shot at that steal.
Maybe
Yeah,
he'll be
we're
more
gonna talk about
photogenic.
that. That's true, or he'll have them broken. Like I seen the way he goes through cell phone screens; those glasses will not last long. I'm just being real. The other thing, Michelle, we should talk about while we have you on here is NW Activewear.
Yes.
That's I mean, that's kind of all right. I'll talk crazy so you don't have to. There are other vendors to contact for jerseys. Yep. Normally they cost myself, like I've ordered stuff from them, and it was like one occasion it was 3 months. So I messaged or I emailed just like, hey, sorry to be a pain. I was just curious about this. Person's like, oh yeah, sorry, got lost. It'll go out on Monday. I've heard a lot of those happening, and there normally is a long wait time and they're not cheap. So anyway, with that said, you offer a different option.
Well, yeah, and I was one of those people. I wanted a shirt. Everybody wants a shirt, and you want it custom, right? Mm-hmm. And the process took at the time it took a while, but it was so insanely expensive. It was over $100 per shirt. Mm-hmm. And what happened? My first competition, I got grease all over the front of my shirt. I was so mad. So I was in negotiations to be working with one of these companies, and it didn't work out. They ended up selling their company, and I thought, well, hey, I should be able to do this. I have a degree in graphics. I should be able to figure this out. I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. And I had decided, much to Todd's chagrin, that I was going to offer a jersey that was affordable, because I like choices. Okay. I want more than one jersey. I don't want to have one jersey for the entire season. And so I feel most people are probably like me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these match shirts, nobody wants, because nobody wants to wear a cotton shirt that you're going to see sweat stains through. So that's one of the reasons why I got into it. And because of your podcast, a couple other podcasts, and some social media posts from people who happen to like my shirts, my business has just exploded and I couldn't be happier. But I don't care how big I get, I'm always going to offer an affordable jersey.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about it. What happens? So if I want you to make shirts for my match, do you come up with the design? Do I come up with the design? Do I just tell you the name of the vendors or the sponsors that I want you to put on
I
it?
can do any or all of the following. So I was lucky enough to get a majority of the area competitions, some steel, some USPSA Hit Factor. And basically the match director just contacts me via email. It's very simple. We have a match. Some of them have their artwork, like the area match logo. Some of them have nothing. And
Okay.
so I can do any of the above. If you want me to design, I just did the Indiana State logo. And hey, you know what? For $100, I'll do your whole match logo, and you can put it on anything you want to put it on. It's yours, including I'll put it on the shirt. And generally I'll have a couple questions. Do you want it conservative? Do you want it a little flashier? Do you want separate for staff and competitors? Do you want all your sponsor logos on? You can have as many sponsor logos as you want. There's no charge for that. And basically I say one more thing. What color? If they have no clue, which surprisingly a lot of them just don't know, they say, well, just send me something. I will send them 2 to 3 different designs and try to feel them out, and we go from there. It's pretty simple.
Well, for people listening to this, I think be familiar. You've done the bulk or all of Brian Conley from Hunter HD, his jerseys, correct? Or his
I've done a
shirts.
lot for him because he's a flashy dresser.
So for people familiar, some of them are very loud, some are more subdued based on what you like. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, funny, he's a big shoe guy, and so he has a huge collection of like Adidas and Nike high top shoes or whatever, and they're pretty flashy. And so last year he just asked me to make some shirts to match his shoes, and I did.
Very nice.
No, and then last year he asked me to make a Star Wars themed collection that wasn't in your face Star Wars.
Okay.
So he just comes up with an idea and I run with it.
I like it. Is there a minimum order to have you do shirts, or what is I mean, for as much as you want to say, what's the finances look like that?
So if you wanted to, if you were just you and your buddies wanted some shirts, the minimum order is 3 shirts for a new design. That being said, I do have a catalog of shirts that have already been templated. If it's a design that's been templated, I can order one-offs. There's no minimum on hoodies, and there's no minimum on sleeves. And we are doing, it hasn't been announced, but we're going to do like Hawaiian button-up shirts. So if
people will love that.
Those some of those IDPA guys, if they want a shirt to hide stuff, we can do that too. So don't do hats. I get asked that a lot. Don't do hats.
And to add your street cred, I mean, Todd and I talked about it before, but you got a cease and desist letter, so that's pretty cool. I mean, I think that's street cred in my book.
Well, I mean, when you notice a lot of your big competitions are starting to not knock at your door, they're going to figure out where it's coming from. It happened to be me. So they were I think they were just trying to scare me off.
100%.
I mean, like, I'm a mother of 4. You can't scare me. I'm married to Todd. Hello.
Todd just happens to look at contracts quite often. So
right.
he wasn't intimidated either.
Don't try to threaten me.
We're glozing over the fact that she's a really good shooter as well, so I have to be careful.
This is true. What else? So, I mean, I won't pin you down, but it's the cost is less than the alternatives, and you have a better delivery time also. So those are also, I think, important
100%.
things.
My turnaround in production right now is running right about 14 business days. And in the spring, sometimes it can get maybe a couple days longer because my printer just gets bombarded with baseball and a lot of spring sports. But like, you can get in right now for a custom shirt for $52 shipping and handling.
That's like half of what the other options are that
And
take twice as long.
I price by increments, so the more you order, the less your shirt is. So generally for a staff event, you're getting your shirts for $32 a piece. So
let's go.
and then they're dry weave, moisture wicking shirts. Everybody likes them. So it's basically the same fabric as all my competitors. It's just not a certain weave. Certain companies have patents on their material.
Okay.
And they're pretty proud of it. And I guess they choose to show that with their prices.
Very proud of them.
And I'm not knocking it. They're all good shirts. But if you're going to get a shirt, why not get one that's same quality but cheaper?
I like that. And well, before we get too much into crazy talk, we should talk about awards also briefly, if you guys want to.
Todd?
Well, so Michelle's also the magic behind the awards about that whole theme thing. But when we started doing awards, I guess the big thing for us, because we started metric in the major steel challenges, and steel challenge is tough for awards because you have a lot of divisions and a lot of classes and a lot of categories. Too many in my opinion, but it's just the way it is. People like to come to matches. They'll say they don't want a medal. Everybody wants to win.
Sure.
Right? That doesn't mean we make medals for stuff. We don't. I generally follow the 5-7-9 rule, right? You got a 5 for first, 7 for first and second, 9 for more. So for the hit factor match, which people don't have classifications on the registration, we just asked, if you were classified in a similar shooting sport, what would you classify as? And we used that and had awards this weekend, and there was about 20 different class medals. They're well received, and it's not to necessarily give out a medal. Those people are classified in a similar shooting sport, and they should be rewarded per their performance. I mean, we had an M class guy get second in the biggest division, enhanced optics, right? And it really shows how good Ben Eggleston is. He just hasn't hit the classifications yet in the other sport.
Sure.
So Michelle uses the same theme as the shirt that we're wearing right now in the awards every year, and she has found very low cost alternatives. I think they look great. You guys can see a lot of people have put pictures of their medals and trophies or plaques, whatever you want to call them, on Instagram in the last day, and they look great and they're very affordable. They will not break the bank of your match budget.
I like it. And then I also like that for both matches, you guys have like a themed area with tables, and it's got the Cornhusker banners behind it, so it looks like an awards area.
Yeah, photo opportunity. Yeah. There's a station for everything, The good news is after doing the steel for 3 or 4 years, and now this 2 years, you kind of have a protocol and a setup you're starting to follow. So it's not just us, but I think the staff at the matches are starting to kind of know that, okay, here's how this and where this stuff is going to occur. So it just it takes on a little bit of a life of its own. So it becomes easier to manage.
And you've got you got your sponsors, you've got their banners. They love nothing more than for somebody to take their picture in front of those banners. I mean, that's free advertising for them. That's part of the reason why they sponsor some of these matches. So use the banners, decorate I know guys hate the decorating, but decorate the range so it looks like an event.
Well, speaking of that, since I'm the sponsorship guy, I'll talk a little bit crazy. A friend of mine that's sponsored the match said basically he doesn't sponsor the match, he sponsors people. So, I mean, yeah, like I send a text message to some of my friends that happen to work for companies, and they're willing to send us merchandise. But regardless of what people think, like sending us $1,000 or $2,000 or $500 worth of stuff, they're not getting that back in just us posting a video tagging them.
Right.
Like that's nothing compared. I mean, sure, you can't put a monetary amount on it, but it's really not like giving them a real value back. So, Michelle, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I know we've talked about this to lead you where I want you to talk about anyway. I know you're careful about where you position the banners so they're in high traffic places, so they're more likely to be seen when people do take photos, because that's like the best we can do as far as trying to give them, and tagging them and stuff, but trying to repay what we can, right?
Right. So, for instance, everybody knows that if you've seen the pictures, the close-up shots all have the little banner Cornhusker Classic underneath it. Okay, I took just under 7,000 pictures. I believe there's like 1,500 pictures or something roughly around that actually made it to the websites for people to download. And so we've got all those people posting pictures. Can you imagine if, let's just say, Shields was on every one of those pictures? You can't pay for that kind of advertising. You really can't. We did it for free.
To me, it's a
So
big thank you. I mean, you got Ben Stoger Pro Shop in the background, that banner, and about
he was
half.
our match sponsor. He needed to be up
You know
front.
what?
Yeah.
To me, it's every one of those pictures is a thank you for supporting the match.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hope they make some sales. I don't know if they do or not. You know, but if they don't, we sure appreciate their sponsorship and their in the prize table editions.
I think that's important. Just like you said, trying to do the best we can for them, even if maybe they do or don't get the monetary value back. It's a thank you, the best we can
We're
do.
gonna do our best to at least represent them.
I agree.
Well, obviously it's very, very appreciative, and they don't always, they're giving and they don't get a lot of that back. And so we're trying to give our sponsors the best for their money. You know what I'm saying? So if it's a banner well placed, we put some thought into it. So
Yeah. And then
thank you.
one other thing we started doing was we save the banners every year. So then when I contact the sponsors, hey, if you're interested in supporting us, we already have their banners on hand. We kept them as nicely as we could. They're rolled up because I mean, those things do cost money and it's a hassle to ship them. So this way it's like, hey, we still have your banners from last year. If you'd like to support the match, we already have your banners on hand. We'll just hang them back up, which vendors do. I mean, I think other matches should follow that
It makes
also
it a
if they're
little
not
easier
already.
to say yes.
It does. It saves them money. We already have them. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of them get wrecked over time. We've wrecked a few
ourselves. And that's going to happen. Sometimes we use them for start positions. Brian Conley told me he loves when his banners, which we did that, get used for start position. So even if they get messed up from people putting their grubby hands all over it or muzzles touching it or, you know, bullets glancing off it, whatever, like they like having those.
With both hands touching lenses.
There you go. That was a thing we did. So yeah, try to incorporate them whenever we can.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Well, I think it's time for crazy talk. Michelle, you're welcome to hang around if you want to, or Todd and I are going to talk about a bunch of stuff that'll make people angry.
Okay, well, I'll bow out there. I'm going to be Switzerland and be neutral.
That's a good idea. I appreciate you taking the time to join and chat with us though.
Good night.
All right. Todd.
Yeah.
We got to talk real talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, well, we're going to get to the difference between Hit Factor and USPSA and what it was, but let's talk about the format of the match briefly.
Yeah.
Just so people can set the stage. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, keep in mind, our club has a long history of putting on major matches. And a lot of these things have been going on for years. So the same ones, but just to give you people a background on why it's done the way it is. We have 7 pistol bays that are available to us. And then we have a 100-yard range that provides us, in essence, 2 more bays. So just if you haven't been there, that's the layout. So we have 5 bays below. We have basically 4 if you want to think about it on this upper plane. And so it's a 2-day format, meaning staff shoots Saturday, some limited competitors, we talked about that before, and then the main competitive set shoots on Sunday. We shoot it in 2 different blocks. So if you're block 1, you shoot the lower level 1 through 5. There's a ghost squad, or there's a ghost bay, if you will. And then you shoot the upper bays, and then you break for lunch, depending on how long it takes, and you shoot the other block. And that does 2 things. One, not the most important reason, but one is it saves people walking up and down, marching up and down that hill.
Yes.
A little bit, which I should say it does help. What it really does, and we've been doing as long as I've been shooting there, and probably you too, is when you have a block, which you will get roadblocks in a squad, right? You're going to have a scoring issue. You may have a Mr. Fix-It has to come, a prop or an activator breaks, right? It takes time. Having those blocks and that lunch, if you came back to a sequential sequence, that block would still likely remain. This kind of lets that block clear, if that makes sense.
It does.
And it allows the second half of the day to kind of start fresh again, so you don't start after lunch in the hole. And we've had those blocks. Last year we had a bad block. In fact, you were on the squad. last year that finished really late on Bay 5.
Mhm.
We had to get some people to help RO, etc. But to give the ROs a break, and that squad had a little bit of a shorter lunch break. But then that block cleared, and then the afternoon went well, and we finished up early. It works great for us. I mean, I don't know if it really matters, even if you had a range set up with nice 10 flat bays, all in a row. Doing 2 blocks or something to that effect might allow you to at least get out of a jam if you got into one. So I think it's a good concept. They've been doing it here for years, and I think it's great, and we need to keep doing it.
I
So
agree.
that's the format of the schedule. I think we do run into some issues with stages is, we have 5 stages down below. Bay 5 is generally the big one. That's where Michelle took all her pictures.
Mhm.
That's usually a big field course. And then up above, we have a big stage, 2 speed shoots, another big stage. And I think our problem bay, which is what we call stage 10 for the match. But for those of you that were there, that's that 50-yard little area up above on the rifle range. We're limited to what we can do there. Tom and myself, I think we've all talked about a little bit. That's kind of where our roadblock can kind of happen on those upper bays. Not that bay, but that bay can become too fast, and then you're going to another field course. So I think there's ways to fix that to keep that flow more even. Because those upper bays, if they flow well, finish faster than the lower. So I think there's a way to resolve that next year.
Well, let's talk about what you said for people not familiar. So imagine having a stage that has 30-yard or 40-yard shooting, where after the stage is done, it's going to take you somebody, the range officer or a designated person, 30 yards to walk. So maybe even for a couple shots. Then next to that, your next stage over, the farthest shot is going to be 10 yards, and it's going to be a sub 12-second stage for most of the people. So very fast, aggressive shooting, and it's relatively compact, so it's easy to score.
Yep.
Now, if you have those two butting up against each other, you have a problem, because regardless of how efficient, everybody knows it's their turn, they're on the spot, everybody's patching, it takes physically longer to walk 30 yards all the way back and all the way back down than it does a really quick, nasty shooting stage that's very quick and easy to score. So that's a problem you have to solve.
I was thinking about it actually today is what I would do if you gave me 10 seconds to decide, and I'm not saying this is the answer, but for those of you that were at the range, Bay 6, that's going to be a big course. It should remain that way. Bay 7 is where we have our 2 speed shoots. I would actually turn that into a decent sized stage. I would use that full bay. It's actually a very good bay to make it a good stage. I would take Bay 9, the 100-yard range. I would do like we do there, a 25-round, 27-round course. And I would take that short, awkward bay that causes the problems, and I would turn that, and I would design a speed shoot that could be ran in 2 different strings, is what I would do. Maybe 2 different start positions, something like that, and you run it through in 2 different strings. It gives you that speed course feel, but it also gives you a couple different chances to do it a couple different ways. That might be a way to solve that. Because I think having a speed shoot matters. It can't just be 22 rounds and above. You have to test those skills of being able to turn the gun around. So anyway, that's one idea to maybe solve it for next year.
I agree. How do you think the courses or the stages compared to the previous year?
Last year, I thought they were a little samey. Is that a word?
Yep.
Okay.
I would agree. I'd say it the same way.
Last year, and I think last year had a little bit more of a positional shooting than this year did. This year was a little more dynamic. You had to post up in certain spots, and you had to, or you had the ability to move in other spots. And I think we had stages that went to the left, we had stages that went to the right, we had stages that had a lot of options. So I thought they were better this year.
I think they're better in every way. I think this match was the best match we've done so far.
Yeah.
And so, like, again, it sounds like an elitist. I happen to be squatted with the heavy hitters, and you've got national level talent that's all talking about different ways, what way they think's faster for a stage. You walk up and look at it, and it's not tough to find the targets at all. It's not a memory stage. It's not complicated, but everyone's got a little bit different theory or a little bit different take on the order, and then all of them end up being pretty good. You don't look at anybody's run like, yeah, that was really dumb. I'm glad I didn't do that. Like, they're all relatively good. So I think that makes it very interesting, and that's the the measurement for a good stage when heavy hitters all look at this. They've got different plans or a little bit different tweak. It's not clear, as opposed to that when you walk up, you look like, yep, there's one way to shoot this. And then it's just follow the leader. Everyone does the same thing, because if you don't do that, it's going to be something really, really dumb. Like, yeah, I would not do that. So anyway, I like that our stages had so many different viable plans.
I think we've learned a lot in the last couple of years, at least I have, is, I've been to matches and it's all about start position, unloaded starts, put your left shoe and your mags on a barrel, and then it becomes if you can remember where the mags are. I don't know if I'm exaggerating that much.
Not that much, no.
But I think you can make a stage much more interesting by where you start instead of how you start, right? I mean, we did a seat start just for something to do. We actually did unloaded start. But we kind of just danced around, and you were with me when we were proofing. You helped proof, and other people helped proof the stages. And it's kind of like, if I stood over here now, and maybe this is a little selfish. I've been watching Instagram videos all day yesterday and today about people running the stages, and I don't want to watch the same video. So maybe I'm selfish, right?
No, I agree.
Well, in some cases, it turns into that way. But if you can give optionality, and a lot of times the start position with the stage design makes for an interesting stage. The start location, I guess, not start position, start location.
Yeah, because it was like, hey, if I start here, I was like, yep, if you start here, there's only one way to do this. Like, okay, never mind.
It's kind of funny, you can walk just 2 feet, or if I just move right here, now it's like, hold on a second. Now I don't know if I want to go here or here. And you'll see it ran different ways.
Right.
Frankly, more interesting.
But I think previous year we did that. We overdid that because we did that on most of the stages. So then, and that was just as much my fault as anybody. So this year we had more. It's like, hey, it's okay just to have heels touching the rear fault line also. That's totally fine, because you want a mix of all of them.
Yeah. And base 6 was like that, right? Heels touching.
It was totally fine.
Little bit of variation behind if you tacked right or left.
Sure.
But I think one of the ways to do it is we didn't do a lot of cover, right? I think every stage, there's one stage that actually 2 stages had no cover, right? So stage 1 was a lot of ports from different angles and IPSC targets to differentiate the points, right? Bay 5 was the big field course, didn't cover a dang thing, didn't need to.
Yeah, there's plenty of distance.
A lot of 20, 30-yard shots from where you had to be. All the other stages had maybe a tux or maybe a no-shoot put in the right spot, I thought.
Let's talk about the right spot. I'll make it a little bit anonymous. So you said on one of the stages it would be Bay 5. There's a target that we had in the right, kind of in the middle, that was clearly designed to be shot on the move. I don't want you to have to stop and post up. It's entice you to keep moving. It's maybe 7 yards away. It's an open target. So this is something that most people should be comfortable shooting on the move. And you had somebody mention like putting a tuxedo on that, to make them aim. It's like,
most people wanted to tux or no shoot it. And like you and I were completely aligned. We just posted up back here shooting steel targets at 29 yards. You want them to stop again and post up?
No.
We wanted them to flow up into that front position. And by the way, people dragged Charlies and Deltas on that target all day.
Of course.
It did not need to be protected.
No, because it's a full open target. They think 7 yards is close, which when you're running and you're juiced up and you want to look cool, it's easy to have misses or just squirt at the shape or the color of the outline of the target. So then, yeah, people have misses on that because they think it's so easy they can't miss.
I think we had 6 tuxes on all 10 stages, and I think we had about 6 no-shoots spread across the 10 stages. That's about all it was. And the reason I'm going to say tuxes is we didn't get crazy with 18 different hardcover targets. We just used tuxes.
And the reason is because you have to have backups of all of them. So if we had a special offset, we'd need to measure them all to make sure they're all identical. And that way, from squad to squad, it's the same thing.
It's simpler from, if you have to hang targets, it's easy to have a backup to your point. I don't think you have to get crazy with cover. I've shot stages before as you have where they tux every other damn target. It's like, so is this just a bullseye competition now?
Yeah, it's like, I'm just going to try not to get a penalty. That's it.
So if you want to shoot bowling pins, go to an indoor range.
I agree. then the other thing I liked about the stage is that like within the 5 minutes, you could get like if you did not come to the match the night before, if you've at least shot a handful of matches, you could show up that morning, look at the stages, and you'd be fine. You could create a plan.
Yeah, the two big field courses needed a little time. If you showed up and you not the day before, you'd want to walk 5 or 9, right?
Mhm.
If you wanted some extra time. The other ones, if you couldn't figure out in the time period, then you're at the wrong match.
I agree. And I mean, I've been to matches, so I could think of, I'll just say it, years past of Area 3, where if you went the morning of that match, there'd be a memory stage every year, a one per. And if you show up the morning of that match, you're not going to figure it out unless you have assistance. Because sometimes it would take me 30 minutes to come up with a plan on just that one stage. And then
Yeah.
you'd see somebody like come up looking bewildered. They look in their eyes get big. I'm like, hey, I got a plan that I think I kind of like. Do you want me to show it? Oh, yeah, 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 yes, please. You know, you just show like this is what I'm gonna do, see if you like it. Whatever. Just not because like somebody's too dumb to figure it out. It's like, why would I make them waste 30 minutes in 100-degree heat? I'll just tell them what I'm gonna do and see if they like it.
So I thought they were better than last year. I thought last year's were okay.
Mhm.
They were fun.
They were fun.
This year they were a better test,
Mhm.
I think,
With more
as well.
variety. Yeah.
There's a lot of alphas to be had. I mean, if
Mhm.
you've been practicing gun control, I mean, Lane got what, 170 alphas out of
He's
213?
he's such a maniac though.
Oh, but I mean, it's a pretty high hit rate, but not everybody did that, but there was alphas to be had out there.
Well, Lane said if you were shooting enhanced optics, you had to take a blood test to confirm you were enhanced in some
You're
way
enhanced.
chemically.
Seen some of those pictures, some people look enhanced.
There does look to be some stacking of the anyway. So let's talk about here's the real crazy talk. What differences from USPSA did we see from the match, this being hit factor? And was it good or bad or indifferent?
So very little, but I think the ones that were mattered,
I agree.
specifically steel. Um,
Let's
so
talk about it.
the hit factor steel, and I'll put in air quotes, calibration rule, but it's not really calibration, is that everybody knows the USPSA one, right? If you shoot it and it doesn't go down, you got to go to Walmart, get some guy to have him set it up twice, the right way. I'm having
Is it
fun
like
with
best 3 out of 5? I'm being serious. I think it's three out
Well,
of
no,
five or four out
the
of
same
five.
guy that set it up has to set it up twice and shoot it down, whatever it is. I don't even know.
It's stupid. Yeah.
You're going to lose it anyway, by the
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
So the hit factor rule is if there's a hit in the scoring zone / calibration zone, right? The round portion of a mini, a big popper, or a speed steel, and it doesn't go down, it's a reshoot. Right? It's simply just a reshoot. Now the RO needs to go down and see that was there an incorrect setup so it doesn't happen to the next shooter, so you
Hmm.
don't have to shoot city, right?
Hmm.
To make sure that that happens. But if not, it's just a reshoot. Simple.
And it
Go
needs to
again.
be a full bullet diameter, right? So if I just nick the edge of it and it just takes a little bit of paint off.
Yeah, it just says if there's a full hit in the scoring zone. Yeah.
So
Or the calibration zone, whatever. I can't remember the words.
we had a calibration call. We could use names or not
Yeah,
names. It's up to
so
you,
the
but we
other
should
half
talk
of the
about it.
rule is this, is so if there's a hit outside of that zone
Hmm.
and it doesn't fall, the RO obviously goes and makes sure that it was set up correctly, right? If it was a rear follower, as an example, that somebody had put the little lever up, obviously it wasn't going to go down. You'd fix that and you'd reshoot it.
Hmm.
But ours were all forward followers except the activating targets. So the one you're talking about, Bay 9, it was a mini popper, forward following, and I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly where the hit was, but it was not in the scoring zone,
The
right?
hit was about 4 inches under the scoring circle on a mini, and it was not a full bullet diameter. So it was kind of partialed a little bit off the edge, and it was,
Yep.
I'll call it 4 inches under the calibration circle.
Yeah, so it's a mic.
So that's
There's
that.
no calibration. So, we'll have fun with what the conversation was because I was on the other end of the walkie-talkie. But, so Heidi calls down, I think Heidi was the RO, the lady,
Uh-huh.
right? She calls down for a calibration. I get on the thing, there's no calibration and hit factor. And I said jokingly, by the way, if it's lane, it's denied. And everybody started laughing on the walkie-talkie because apparently it was lane.
It was, yes.
So Scott went up there and he looked at it, I think
Mhm.
probably just to see.
Make sure it was set correctly.
But was it off a barrel or because it was protected by a barrel, I think.
This one was out in the open, but yep, he looked at that.
The
He
right
made
one. And
Scott made sure it was set properly.
set properly, and then the rule says it's a mic.
Yeah, Scott pulled out the rule book and showed the rule, and it talked about it, and that was that.
Yep. And so I get that somebody could be upset for a minute thinking, well, I didn't have a chance for a calibration hit. Keep in mind, 999 times out of 1,000. You know, Scott's going to go up there into the old way and he's going to pop one right in there and it's going to fall.
Like, spoiler alert, if it's a mini popper and you're calling for a calibration, you're going to lose.
Well,
If
in
it's
all honesty, a 22 and that speed of that thing. The trouble is when you get an edge hit, right?
Mhm.
So it was an edge hit, right?
yes,
So an edge hit, you know, kind of torques it a little bit when it's hitting on the edge. That's probably why it didn't fall. And it's not in the scoring zone, right? And especially if it's
Sure.
low, it doesn't just push it back far enough. If Scott went up there with a pistol and hit that thing, it's 100% going to fall.
Yeah, and my point was if it's a large popper, sometimes maybe you could luck out if it's set heavy. But on a mini, like under the USPSA rule, you're going to lose that. You're never going to win it.
So, and the reason we wrote that rule last during Christmas when all the drama went down is, other than this was the first time it happened, right? So that aside, frankly, it just saves time. You know, that's what's going to happen anyway, right? So if you hit in the area and it was set up right, now granted, if that same person's popping it and it's not going down, then you know within the rules, the match director and range master have the ability to then look at that person's ammo, right?
Hmm.
But frankly, it's just a time saver. Instead of a 5-10 minute calibration argument, it's a mic.
Hmm.
Or it's a reshoot, one of the two.
Let's talk about the other one that I think is noteworthy and different. Video evidence.
So video was used. I don't think the video was used for the reshoot. I'm not sure. So we'd have to ask Scott. But there was 2 or 3 scenarios where Scott looked at video. So there was a DQ, a 180 break by one of the staff on Saturday.
Mhm.
And so he wanted Scott to look at the video. So Scott did. And it confirmed that was the right call, right?
Which I'm not saying all video would always show, but in this case, it was like, this is a way to confirm. I mean, it happens fast. Like, yep, this was the right call. That was correct.
Yep. There was another one where somebody got a foot fault.
Mhm.
A foot fault was called. They wanted to challenge it. They said they had a video. They called the RM over. Scott couldn't see their feet on the video. So how are he can't overrule that, right? That was a simple one. You know, the thing is Scott and I talked about it, and I don't think he cares for it because it's kind of like sports, right? It's like it has to be overwhelming video evidence, right? And it really does in this case. It really has to be overwhelming, but you can't rule yourself out of a foot fault if the video doesn't show your feet.
I think more than anything, though, you're giving people the option to have every resource they can to state their case. Because I could think of a bit of a situation last year where somebody got DQ'd, and in my opinion, unjustly, just from it happened too fast, and the RO wasn't able to see what was happening or process it. And the competitor had video evidence, and he wants to show that to the range master. Like, well, would you just look at it? He's like, nope, can't look at it. Can't look at it. Doesn't count. Doesn't matter. And so it's like, at least the competitor, like if I'm putting that shoes, at least you're willing to look at the evidence I have, whether it affects your judgment one way or the other. Who knows?
I totally agree. My personal opinion is nothing wrong with it. If it's 8 times out of 10 that it doesn't go your way, which by the way, it's probably going to be that way.
Sure.
But last year, I'll make it even simpler one. Last year, I had a foot fault at a match. I can't remember, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I had a foot fault, and I saw the video because I know I can't use it, but I was just looking at it, and my foot was clearly both in bounds. I was never out. I don't know what the RO saw. If video evidence would have been allowed, my foot fault would have gone away. So there are simple ones. I think the one you're talking about, I think that could have gone the other way with video. I'm not sure.
I think it would have.
I think the big thing people got to remember that when this does happen, if you use video, let's just say even USPSA would change it someday. It's hard to judge angles, right? So
It is.
It's got to be pretty compelling probably for the RM to overrule the initial ruling of an RO. But
Yeah.
it'll happen. It'll absolutely happen.
Yeah, and just having it on video, like, I got proof, here. It doesn't mean like the call, like you said, is going to go your way.
Well,
But
I think if anything, what it would do, it would cause less drama in the subsequent events. Because
yes,
at least the situation could be rectified on the spot. That's probably the best reason to have video. It's just like, hey, let's just take care of this right now.
and from my point of view, it's like people feel like somebody's listening to them. They're at least, let's you
Yeah.
can give me all the information you have. Maybe it does or doesn't change their opinion, but you're willing to listen to any evidence this person has.
Totally agree. Totally agree. One other rule is we did we had two other options, right? We could do a stay in the fault lines. We
Mhm.
didn't do that one at this match. We could have done it on one, but it actually would have made the stage samey, so we didn't do it. But we did do a mandatory reload on a field course.
Mhm.
So that Big Bay 5 it's a 32 rounder. Tim Dunduri designed it, and we said, man, it was a pretty PCC friendly course,
Mhm.
right? As sometimes the field courses actually can be. And so we put a mandatory reload on it. And everybody said, well, why would you do that? I said, the PCCs can reload on a PCC friendly stage. There
Yeah.
was plenty of room to do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And one guy forgot.
Yeah.
One guy fumbled one. I mean, it's a test. Reload's a test of all the guns. It wasn't to pick on the PCCs. It was basically to make that stage at least an equalizer among the divisions. So I think it was a good choice.
I like that. Um, and then another thing to talk about, I suppose, is the level 3 thing versus the hit factor versus the level
Oh,
2. And like, I'll just say it. We didn't have to jump through any hoops.
you're right.
We should talk about that.
There is. So, but a couple different things. Number one is it saved our club $500 in fees that we
Okay.
didn't pay. So we actually gave it back to the shooters. We reduced the match fee by $3, so they got that back. Maybe saved it $400. But I think one of the big things is getting the stages approved, right? So if you have a level 2 match, you got to send them to D and ROI, you got to get them approved, right? Last year they didn't change ours, and I don't know what happens, got it approved, but they didn't approve them until like 3 days before. So if you did have something wrong and trying to correct it, you might be in setup mode already, right? If you found something fundamentally wrong, it serves no benefit. So I don't know why uh, you would take a match of our size, right? Just basically call it a mid-major, for lack of a better term,
Mhm.
right? Because it's not a huge major. It's 130 shooters, between 130 and 150, depending on the year. I don't see any benefit to running it as a level 2, even if you're running it under the USPS or USPSA org rules. It's just a bigger match.
Yeah, and I'll say stuff that you
Oh,
don't have to reply to. But in previous years of Area 3 helping, what I was told was the stages never got approved 1 year due to laziness, incompetence, forgot about it, didn't know, whatever. 1 year they never got approved. So that puts you in limbo a little bit as somebody starting to put stuff on the ground, like what you said.
yeah.
And if you look at like the circus of old, the Sherwin era of Area 3, like it was a total circus. We have people jumping in and out of tires and stuff. That stuff was approved. So it doesn't make me feel like it was ever like really that regulated. It was just a control measure or gatekeeping. And I don't like that anyway, because the magic's going to happen on the ground anyway, because you look at the diagram and it's one thing, but when you put it down on the ground, I mean, you always massage them a little
There
bit, the
was two of the
angles.
stages that didn't even look at the same.
Sure, because you can't, right? Just the way like the size of the bay, how everything kind of sits together. You just kind of move it all around until it makes sense, right?
Yep. I mean, you're first looking for safety, right? Is the
Hmm.
stage safe? The second one, you start looking for shoot throughs. And then the third one, you're just looking for if it's stupid.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the order you go through when you build
Yeah.
it. And once you get past those three, and then the fourth one is it a good stage, and you start tweaking it. You were that night moving targets on Bay 10. Ooh, put it over here, put it over here. And
Uh-huh.
that's where the magic happens. I don't know what benefit any of those reviews ever provide you. I don't think they do at all. I mean,
It's
there's
just
no
gatekeeping,
support for it. So
right?
if you think the classification system's broken, then you don't have anything else. Granted, USPSA has a big rule set, right? So you have the rule set and the classification system. I think everybody thinks the classification system's broken. The hit factor rule set is rudimentary, right? But it's enough to get through a match. Great Plains ran one, we ran one. I know that Forest Lake is running monthly hit factor matches. Scott's doing one in a hit factor match in September or October, whatever it is. But you could get some pretty smart people and beef that thing up this fall if things seem to keep going the way they are, and strengthen it up, maybe get some vagueness out of there if you need to keep running it. So I don't know why you'd switch right now unless there was a compelling reason to say that the organization is supporting the clubs, and I don't see it happening in the near future.
Yeah. The other thing that we should talk about is to kind of tie into the parts of being a successful match director that you are. We had people running the timer that are not USPSA certified ROs, but are very competent people. And I don't know if that's of a requirement for, like level 2 or level 3 match, or if it's just best practices, whatever. But I mean, I think we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you're in our club, me and you. We have a lot of really good people that have been doing major matches for a long time. And some of them this year can't RO anymore. We have people that are getting little older and hard to get there. We had some of our normal ROs, that have been doing it years over years, that had some personal conflicts this year. There were some people that had trips. There's some people that had some personal issues. So we were actually getting a little short. Luckily, we had some people from out of town that helped us. I think we had 3 people in addition to Andrew and Scott that helps from out of town. We appreciate it. It's pretty hard, generally you have to get a couple outside helpers, and we had good ones. And but we had to kind of look at, hey, we have some people that have been shooting our locals for a long time. They may not been certified. A couple were new certified USPSA ROs, but they're competent shooters. They run the nooks. They take the timers at matches. And frankly, it was probably good we were a little short, because we got about 8 to 10 people that hadn't, actually, I'll have to count, but that hadn't RO'd a major match before. They did a great job. They got some experience. If they get certified for next year, if they ever need to be, our RO pool just grew dramatically, and next year we are set up really well for staff.
And to clarify, these are people that are running the timers at our regular monthly match.
Yeah.
That already are familiar. They just haven't worked a major, but they're not new to running a timer at all.
Yeah, they're not new running timer. Yeah, they weren't new to officiating of any kind. They've been doing the locals. We had 4 steel challenge guys there that don't really shoot USPA occasionally, but they want to help, and they did a great job. You pair them with the right people, and they did a great job. So I think it was probably good that we had some of our regular ROs that had conflicts, because I think it allowed us to build some muscle for 25 and beyond.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's probably a good thing.
I mean, people move on, they have life, things happen, they get married, have kids, whatever. So we have to keep growing the pool of people we have at our club.
Yeah, I've been making a list of all those other things, like Tom and Sandy and Terry Begley been doing it for a long time, Rich Samandel, those 4 and others. They do so much stuff because they've done these matches for years, that all these little things that you don't know are being done. Trying to notice so you can get those, because I don't know, maybe they win the Powerball and move to St. Martin. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to run the match. But trying to get some people, and I think setup was better. We could do a better job on setup, getting more volunteers, but in the future. But we probably set up a day sooner than we did last year.
I agree. We should also talk about, I mean, you're just being real. You're quite good at managing people. You're used to being a leader for your day job. How do you select who to use for positions, for range master, stats, sponsor person?
I probably spend more time on that on anything. So range master is easy. If we need a range master and Scott's available, and if he can say yes, we got a winner, right? We were going to have somebody paired with Andrew this year to kind of get, Andrew's a stats expert, to try to learn from him. to be able to wean ourselves from outside help over time if possible. Nothing against these guys, but you got to be able to do it on your own. And we do the monthlies. But when you look at the staff that you're putting in to the stages, I kind of look at what does the stage require?
Okay.
Is there going to be a problem on that stage? And not in any particular order, but some stages need fitness,
Okay.
right? Some need um, 3 people. Some people need a really experienced person because you think something's going to happen
It's going to
there.
be complicated to score, right?
It's complicated to score. Some stages have a higher chance of something happening than others, right? Um, some stage, and then you kind of then you start looking at your pool of people that you have, and you're thinking, you know what? I think this stage, for instance, Heidi on Bay 9. Heidi's a good leader.
Mhm.
Jay's a good RO. Josh Urban was there. We needed to cover. Josh doesn't suit that much, but he's a good RO. They're going to take the calls. There were some places where people could get in trouble. You were going to have good eyes on it just to make sure for safety purposes and scoring, and it went great. Bay 4, we had 2 people from Mill Creek, Ben and Denise down there. Ben's a strong RO. There was a propensity for people maybe DQing on that one edge. Unfortunately, a couple happened, but I think talked to Ben later on the day, and he made an adjustment of where the RO stood that probably kind of helped some people from getting in trouble, because using the RO themselves is almost like a sight barrier. People that are being able to think through those various things. Um, you know, so we really try to think about, is that stage and the people that you're assigning to it, do they all fit?
Mhm.
And I think it did. I think we had the right people, the right spots.
What about, I'll say chemistry, like having people that aren't going to annoy each other by the end when everybody gets hot and cranky and tired? I assume there's some.
Oh, that matters too. Obviously, I'm not going to put 2 people together that I believe don't care for each other.
Sure,
Every club has those. You're not going to pair them up. I'm
sure,
not
but
a counselor, so I'm not trying to solve those issues.
this is true. But I think that worked well also because you notice like on the stage, all the ROs there was like they weren't cranky, they got along well. They made good teams.
They did. I think a lot about that. I think a lot of match directors probably think more about that than you think they do. I don't know. I think that probably matters, right? So, when you're a competitor and you walk up to that stage, you may or may not know those people, but when you walk away from it, you want to know that I know it was scored right. You know what I mean? I
Mhm,
know that it was efficient. I trusted when the RO yelled Alpha Charlie that I didn't have to run over and check. You know what I mean?
mhm.
And I think everybody did. I didn't hear a single complaint.
Well, selfishly, this thought of pairing people occurred to me more after you paired me with somebody last year at the Steel Challenge match because you're like, hey, would you mind RO? I'm like, yeah, like I can work with anyone. You pair me up with anybody you need to on any stage, put me wherever. And you paired me up with somebody that was very nice and easy to get along with on a stage that was easy for me to understand and score, not
Yeah.
being a veteran Steel Challenge person. Like, oh. And then I thought about it afterwards and I was like, yeah, none of that was by chance. Like, nope, you already had it all planned out exactly where to put me and who to put me with. I'm like, that makes sense because I hadn't really thought of that before.
All right. I mean, when you get to the end and you at the end you're doing awards and everybody's taking pictures and all that stuff, and you thank the staff.
Mhm.
It there's so much that your ROs and your staff are doing, right? These little things that they're taking care of along the
Mhm.
way, that you can never capture. And if you have the right people in the right spots, and we do, we have a great crew. I
Mhm.
mean, Mr. Fix It, Rich Samandel, our normal Mr. Fix It, had a personal conflict. Tom's obviously awesome. I don't think anybody missed a beat. He knew how to do everything,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Tom was up, Friday night we had a chance of a storm and Tom was there bracing the walls and Mother Nature blessed us. But, if he didn't done some bracing, there probably would have been a little more fixing up. So we have long-standing record of really good people knowing what to do to take care of stuff that you do not have to micromanage it at all. We have a good crew. And I think we built more muscle for the future.
I agree.
Yep.
And one thing you clearly don't struggle with, but I've seen other people have, is where they have this conversation more than once, where somebody's like afraid of it not getting done. So they do it all themselves because it's like, if I do it, I know it gets done right. And I think you've done really good at empowering people to either put them in a position to make the decisions or setting them up for success, as opposed to trying to do all the work yourself.
Yeah, you'd die if you did all this yourself. I mean,
Some people do that though.
I run these matches, even even a local match. If you're running a 5-6 days local match, you gotta. Hey, here's a diagram. Bob, go set it up on bay 2. If you know what I mean. You can't just willy-nilly think everybody's going to do it. So you got to create some skill sets there, and you can't do it yourself, or you're going to burn yourself out, and you won't be shooting in 5 years.
Yep.
You see it all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I like it. And then I think you're good about kind of setting the expectations. I mean, let's be real, for club members to help. That sense of like, hey, it's your club. And we talked about this in the past. It was like you'd come out on Monday, you'd have breakfast, then you'd set up or whatever. Now it's like, hey, everybody works. Well, most people work. You can come out one afternoon. Would you be willing to leave work at 2 o'clock, at 3 o'clock, and just come out and give me a couple hours? It's a lot easier to say that than say, hey, Todd, I need you to take five days of vacation and show up on Monday morning.
We still have a lot of room to improve there. I mean,
We do.
Last year was apparently better than years before. I know this year was better than last year. We have got to, there's no reason that this can't be set up in 2 evenings. And it really can. And that takes a culture change. But if you shoot at our local club, the majority of the matches, and you're shooting Hit Factor, USPSA matches, whatever there are, and you're in our area, and I get that people have shifts, and I know not everybody can come. But if you're available to come out for a couple hours one night, you should. You really should. I mean, your club's putting on a major match. You're being entertained with the sport, because that's really what it is. It's a sport, hobby, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. Every month, one time a year. Yeah, and I'm gonna say it, I expect you to come out and help for a couple, 3 hours. I really do. And I try to set expectations even for the match. I mean, we put it in the match book, and we put it in the check-in in the morning. This club is not going to tear down the match at the end. Everybody that's here is going to tear it down. And there's a lot of people, and we're not the only match that have this, and they know that's going to be asked. And when that match is over, they're in the car, and it's disappointing. Now, granted, some people have a long drive, and I'm not saying that this is 100% thing, because people do have to go and people have commitments. But there's generally, you could guess, about half of the people that are going to bail on you and not lift a wall. And I think that's just the sport in general, right? They pay their match fee, they're going to shoot, and they're going to go. And you're never going to stop it. But, it doesn't take long. I mean, even with that, we tore down in 22 minutes. I timed it. And
that's impressive.
It was kind of depressing.
Yeah.
It takes you 3 days to set it up, and you're like, what? Is it really all put away that fast? Which is, it is good that it happened that way. But, we had captains place in each place where material would be coming in. So Bill Jacobs was at the Steel Challenge building because some Steel Challenge equipment was used. So when it came in, he knew where it went. So on Thursday night, when Don Rush is running his Thursday night Steel Challenge, Don does not now have to deal with a mess, right? You had 2 people in the wall, 2 or 3 people in the wall area, and then you had Owen Collins, who has got a very good presence to direct people, leading where all the stands and other stuff went. And yeah, Rich had a trailer. 22 minutes later, it was torn down. Amazing.
Yeah, and by you having somebody, which was smart, I didn't think of that, directing them, stuff gets put back in the right spot. It's faster because if you're out of town, like, where does this go? And you're holding targets, you're like, oh, right there around the corner to your right. It's just very simple.
Yep. Yeah. So, all you clubs listening, you all have people like this. Just put the right person where they need to be, and get some experience. And by the way, they'll figure out how to do it right. You don't have to tell them how to do it. Just get somebody with the right mentality, personality, and fortitude in that area, and tell them to take care of it, and they will.
Dude, you're not
And
wrong.
if they don't, you get a different person next year.
Hey, speaking of getting a new person for next year, do you want to talk about what the future holds for the match?
Oh yeah, I would imagine the Cornhusker Classic will continue. I think it's I don't talk to as many people as you do, because I'm not Hit Factor aficionado. I enjoy shooting the locals. I don't really travel for the big matches. I like the sport. I think it actually might help me a little bit that I'm not so entrenched in it because I think I can see it a little bit differently than people that live for the sport. Like some of our board of directors live for the sport and not live for the club or live for the organization.
I think they live for the conflict of interest, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Oh, you like the stage names?
Oh, we should talk about that.
We should. The stage names. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're sitting there on Friday morning. Scott and Andrew come in. So Scott, Scott wants to proof the stages, obviously the range master. Made a couple tweaks. As you would expect, you'd find something. And I said, well, we got to name these darn things. So, we're protesting, right? And so we want to name them. So we really ran through the list of very professional protested stage names, right? So I think the first one was loose financials. The second one, travel allowance. I think then it was Banamall. Stage 4 was cameo or bust.
Ponzi scheme, I think, was 5.
Scheme. I think the funniest one was Andy Erickson, who's the Area 3 director. He was our CRO on Bay 6, so we named that stage next one out. Pretty funny.
That was pretty funny.
And then
conflict of interests. I don't remember what the other. I know there's a couple more names. Executive session.
Stage 10 was 10.2 spelled out. Isn't that the live stream bylaw that they got? Oh, bylaw violation.
Yes.
And of course, there was people on Instagram that said we should have named things, some of the gross stuff that's been going around and like getting into those kind of things. Let's just talk about the business issues with the sport. I'm not going to get into personal things, but
I agree.
It was fun.
Dude, it was excellent.
Enjoyed the names. But yeah, for the coming years, you would know more than me. I think the match is continuing to take on, I hope, a little more cachet. I hope people are starting to see it as one to come to. I think the current drama probably limited our audience a little bit. It certainly would have limited it more if it was a USPSA match. And proof in the pudding is Area 3, right? Area 3 isn't happening because of that very reason. So, we read the tea leaves correctly and we went outlaw / hit factor. And Great Plains did the same thing, and they were successful with their match. Scott changed Iowa to a hit factor match, and when he did that, he basically almost
doubled
the
amount
match.
of people signed up.
Yeah, it'll sell out. And I think we probably would have got more. The match could hold more people. We could do a couple 3 squads on Saturdays, especially now that I think we've built some RO muscle. We could probably add 20, 30 people. So we could probably do 160, 180 person match. That would probably be our limit with our infrastructure. But no, I'm not going to match direct next year. That's for me. I think it's time to mentor the next guy if I can be of assistance to him. I've talked to the person that I think would be great. You know who it is. We won't name him just in case he changes his mind, but great guy. Help him as much as we can, and I think he'll do really well. I think it has to be done anyway. That way, if 2, 3 years from now he can't do one and I have time, I can do one or somebody else can learn. If we can build our club where we have 2, 3, 4 people that could take that on that year, if people had conflicts or life changes, that you could do that. I think it would be healthy anyway.
I agree. Plus, you get new perspectives, new ideas.
Yeah,
it's just good for everyone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he probably has different ideas how he wants to do a couple things, and I'm sure they're great. Try them. Do them. Take what's good and take what's bad, or things that need improvement and change them. I think the big thing to change is the upper bay, like I talked about before, that comes front of mind. Last year there was a roadblock there. This year's a roadblock there. We got to solve that next year. That upper block. It's not traumatic, but it's kind of the same thing. It's got to be fixed.
You say that, but I mean, we were done shooting at what? Maybe like 220?
Yeah, I think 230. Some squads were done about 145, and I think the last squads were done about 220.
And then
So I think there was a cumulative half-hour wait that caused among those 5 stages, which actually isn't bad. It's a little 5-minute buildup. That's what I mean. If you can change a little 5-minute fix there per stage, and I think would solve that. But yeah, we tore down in 22 minutes. The awards went quick. We just do them basically by division. So we read them off pretty quick. We had a couple guns to draw. 4, we didn't have to be present to win for the guns, you know, because again, people are Saturday, so we'll just 2 of the 3 people that won guns were there, and the other guy I sent an email to, and he'll be excited when I get a hold of him. And we'll make sure the sponsor's recognized for that gun award. Shadow Systems is the last one that, and I'm sure he'll be very excited to win it.
I would be. That's a cool gun.
Yeah, I was gonna put my name on it.
Hey, no, I was gonna say something crazy, but I won't.
Yeah.
There was a comment you made about how quick one of the swingers or the activated was that I was gonna drop, but I was like,
Well, we changed it.
oh.
I'll say it.
I'll
So
say it.
Bay 6, so the hot bay that Andy Erickson was on, that bay got a little hot because it had that new gravel that crushed. There was some crushed pavement within it, so it's a little bit black. It got a little hot in there. And so when we set it up the first day, I think it was weighted a little too heavy. And what did I put on there? That stage 6, it's faster than Jake Martin selling a pistol off the prize table. I think that's
I believe this is what you posted.
or a gun, a review gun. I'll say it that way, not a prize table.
I got a lot of messages about that.
Well, good. I hope you were entertained.
I was not expecting it from you. That was what made it so funny.
Me? Oh, I'd say a lot of things. I generally don't, but I have a lot of things that rush through this 70 IQ points that I have.
I love it.
Yeah.
What else? Todd, if people want to get a hold of you, how would you want them to reach out to you? If they have questions, they want to send death threats, or they have questions about how you run the club or anything like that.
Instagram, you know, Todd Woitzel, or email toddweitzel@gmail.com.
Perfect. And then for Michelle, I should have asked her while she was on. MW Activewear, is that the best place? All right, go ahead.
Yes, MW Activewear. Active is AKTIV. So she's on Instagram or Facebook. Her just contact her via that way. Her other Instagram is her shooting one is Top Shot Shell. That's probably her most common one, but
Perfect. I'll put those in the show notes anyways, in case people want to reach out, have questions about match management or shirts.
Yeah. So now it's on to the Cornhusker Steel Challenge in September.
Yes. Can't stop, won't stop. I know.
Got to divide up a little bit.
This is true.
But I, actually back though to that thing, you helped a lot for the sponsorship. Those 2 matches, even though next year we'll have 2 different match directors for it, there are a lot of companies out there that are graciously provide prize table stuff to both matches. Obviously, we want to go to them united. You don't want to ask twice because that's not fair to them. And Vortex is one of them that have supported both matches. So is Hollow Sun. And obviously we want to go to those twice. They've been really good to us. And Vortex gave us those new XLs preview, which is great. You saw that Bailey Atkinson, Brody's little sister, won one. Was kind of nice because I think when she won it, they said that her dot broke or something last week. So hope she can take advantage of that. So that was nice.
100%.
Yep.
Cool, man. Well, appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. I have no doubt people will clip all the spicy comments you made and want to post them online. So that's always fun also.
Do whatever you want.
Perfect. Well, anyway, appreciate you taking the time. Training group members, if you have questions, drop them below and I'll just have Todd back on and we will continue with the crazy talk.
Yeah. Hey, good shooting, everybody.
Appreciate it.